Lawyers for Sean Diddy Combs are taking a brand new tactic with his defense team. And this one, it might surprise you. So this morning, we're shining our spotlight on their latest court filing. So the defense is going on the offensive. They're going after the prosecution, calling them sexist and puritanical. This new filing revolves around 9 recordings of sex acts that are considered important evidence in this sex trafficking case being alleged against Diddy. His defense team is saying that all these videos show are consensual sexual activity between willing adults. In a letter to the Manhattan federal court, the defense team writes, quote, "The case is sexist because the government's theory perpetuates stereotypes of female victimhood and lack of agency. The prosecution reflects a paternalistic view that the government is here to protect women who cannot be trusted to make their own decisions about sex and are not capable of consenting to sex that prosecutors view as outside the norm." The defense team is asking for the videos to be turned over for additional investigation. All right, so let's dig in. I have 2 great guests still with me. Retired FBI Special Agent Jennifer Coffindeffer, and want to welcome in now clinical sex therapist and professor Dr. Laurel Steinberg. And Dr. Laurel, welcome to the show, and I want to begin with you, please. So I want to show you a little bit more of what they're alleging here in this filing. So they're saying that these freak-offs are harmless, essentially harmless adult activities. If we take a look at this filing, they're writing that, like many Americans in the privacy of their own bedrooms, they sometimes film their sexual activity. And these videos show that the person alleged in the indictment to be victim 1 not only consented, but that she thoroughly enjoyed herself. So, Dr. Laurel, how mainstream is this type of activity?
How mainstream is recording sex acts with partners? Right. Just because it may not happen in every home, in every situation, doesn't mean it's not, common or appropriate. The issue is are the participants able to consent with respect to age and being sober? And so, sure, people record themselves all the time and use those recordings in a variety of ways.
Dr. Laurel, what about multiple people being involved? Because when we think of these freak-offs, we're thinking of these wild parties, multiple people together, partner swapping, lots of baby oil, we know. How common might that be, these sex parties where multiple people engage?
I don't have specific numbers on how common those activities are. I don't know that people who engage in them talk about them so freely. But I certainly in my practice have heard about all sorts of sex acts and group sex and sex clubs. And I think that does happen with wonderful community leaders, parents, professionals of all kind. That's not the issue in this particular case. The issue is whether they were able to consent to the activities with respect to age and sobriety.
Bingo, Dr. Laurel. The consent and the ability to make such a decision and willfully consent, as you said, and is inebriation a part of this? Agent Coffindeffer, that's where I want to bring you in with these allegations. So the government is taking issue with what they say is trafficking and forcible inebriation, forcible drugging, and even the rehabilitation after the fact that these women were so beat up essentially after engaging in these freak-offs that they had to have, IV drips and things like that and stay out of the public eye. What do you think, Agent Coffindeffer, when you hear that the defense team is essentially saying, "Oh, prosecution, you're just kind of being prudish here and criticizing the freak-offs"?
Well, it's interesting, Julie, because they seem to have cherry-picked out 9 particular tapes. What about all the rest of the tapes? What about the dozens of witnesses? What about the other individuals involved in this? What about the drugs that were allegedly used in these freak-offs as tools to undermine their ability to consent? What about all these witnesses that are going to come forward and say, "Listen, I didn't consent"? What about the video we have of him physically hurting individuals. We've seen one of those videos, right? So when you add up the totality of the evidence, I don't think it's going to match with these 9 tapes, maybe 9 specific situations where there was some consent.
I really appreciate that. Great points. So it seems like the way they're advocating for Diddy, and look, these are advocates, paid advocates, they're doing their job, right? It seems like they're almost saying, hey, federal government, you're getting into personal business and you're sex shaming Diddy because of his choices and his lifestyle and his parties and all of that. Dr. Laurel, when you hear about these allegations from the defense team, I'm curious what you think.
Well, I think it's really, really important for us to, as a community, remain sex positive and crime negative, and take a page from Christian Grey and Anastasia Steele from 50 Shades of Grey, where Mr. Combs has a motley crew of attorneys that no doubt regret having been employed by him historically, and they could have met in conference rooms and created legal documents that would have secured that consent in writing. Just because sexual activities seem different than what we hear about at dinner tables and at community meetings, I would consider varied sex acts to be sort of like equivalent to mint chocolate chip ice cream being sold at Haagen-Dazs. I may not get it, but I respect that it exists. The issue is about consent.
I really appreciate the insight in your attitude, Dr. Laurel. You're so pleasant and polished, and I love the Christian Grey comparison. I feel like if Diddy's lawyers are smart, they're going to do what you just did and say, yeah, he's like the Christian Grey, but the real life Christian Grey with all that money and power. So on the other side of this, of course, these allegations they're very serious, right? We're a country that we fight every day to uncover sex trafficking that's going on, right? And members of law enforcement, like Agent Coffindeffer, who've served for many years, are working day in and day out to stop victimization going on. And so, Agent Coffindeffer, I want to show you another piece of this, where the defense team is claiming that there's no evidence of any violence, any coercion, any threats or manipulation, no evidence that anybody is incapacitated or under the influence of drugs or excessive alcohol consumption. There's no evidence of sex trafficking, so they say. What do you think as you read that paragraph there, Agent Coffindeffer?
Well, I think, again, they take a complete juxtaposition from the indictment that we've all read that is very specific to what happened, and it certainly does not mimic what they wrote there. So they may be cherry picking out of thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of tape a few instances where something was consensual that occurred between 2 individuals. But their big problem is the other 99% of what's on those tapes.
Right. You're so right, Agent Coffindeffer. Diddy's got big problems, as we know. And I think this is a little taste of where the defense is headed at trial. It seems like they're going to say, okay, you're putting our freak-offs on trial, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to stand by what happened and make the government prove every little allegation.